Do you know who's Junkyard and who's Mutt? Junkyard is the dog. This is one of those new return to windowed packaging G.I. Joe classified figures for 2024. And it is great to see the packaging back this way because it really gives you a sense of what the figures look like before you get a chance to buy them. And also, maybe sniff out any sort of quality control issues before you have to contact all the customer services or return it and try to find the figure. This is just better. This is overall better. I can tell you without even opening this box a few things that I like about it. First is the sculpt of Junkyard, the dog. The animals in the G.I. Joe Classified series, so far, no notes, perfection. There's also a lot of different hand options here for Mutt, and the reason for that is because of his canine training specialty. Now for my favorite part, we get to unbox this guy, get all the accessories out, see what I like about him, see what I would have liked to maybe seen changed, and my overall thoughts and impressions. So are you ready? Let's go! And here are our figures out of the packaging. Mutt, right here, is your classic G.I. Joe figure, and then we also have Junkyard, who does take a lot of inspiration, I feel, from Timber. Even though there are some similarities, these are very different canines, so we'll have to get a little closer look at that. But before we get to Junkyard, though, let's start with Mutt and check out all of the details on him. Now, as I'm noticing, there are a lot of cool nods to animal training here. In particular, on his left hand, he has this guard over his forearm, and I believe that's for dog training, where you get them to bite you and they learn how to do that in a safe way that doesn't maul your arm. If I'm not mistaken, this piece here is separate. It sits over his forearm, so I could remove that. I could put it on the other hand if I wanted. The nice thing about it is that it doesn't seem to impede the double-jointed elbows, which is great to see. There's a lot of movement in the head up and down. We're not going to get a whole lot in the torso because he has this vest on. Belt sits decently around his waist. He does have his drop leg holster. And let's see how stiff these legs are. Ooh, yeah, those are pretty stiff. I'm going to have to heat those up if I want to pose him at all. So yeah, definitely going to be heating up the legs there. The ankles, though, feel really good. The swivels also feel really good. It's just the double-jointed knees. Pinless, which is great. That's going to just need a little bit of heat. There is arm hair that's painted on. It's kind of funny. You can also see a little bit on the chest area too. Those details are always amusing. It looks to be slightly different than what we got with Outback. Now, Outback had kind of raised arm hair that was, I think, dry brushed over. This is just like a stamp process, I believe. We also saw this on a Dreadnought. I can't remember if it was Buzzer or Ripper. It was lighter there. This is really dark. It doesn't come across all that well. Maybe it does come across better on camera, but looking at it up close, outside of camera, it is not my favorite paint application on the G.I. Joe Classified line so far. That's our quick once-over of Mutt. Let's get Junkyard and get a better look at him. And here, let's take a closer look at Junkyard. There are a lot of similarities to Timber, but I think the cool things that this does differently, of course, is the completely different type of dog. We have this really thick collar, and we also have this harness. I think this is a first for the animals in the G.I. Joe Classified line to have this armor, this harness on the animal. I'm trying to think of any of the other ones that could possibly have it, and the closest that I'm getting is Fiona from Crocmaster. Really doesn't have the same effect. Spirit and Freedom, no. So far, I think this is the only clothing accessory for an animal in the G.I. Joe Classified series, which is cool. I like that. There's also this torso swivel at the back half of the dog, like he's jumping through something. I don't know what you would need this for, but it's nice to have. You know, extra articulation, I will never say no to that. I stopped short of pulling out all of the accessories because there are just so many of them, and they are rather small. In the past, like magazines and stuff like that, I've dropped and I've had to spend quite a bit of time looking at. So what I think I'm going to do is take these over to the table. We'll get a closer look at them. Here we are up close with our figures. Let's just start putting the accessories in. He has the knife that goes right in the sheath on his vest. I want to see how well this helmet naturally fits on him, but before we do that, just take a look at how weathered and grimy this looks. There's even like a really nice rough feel to it. This feels like something that's been in the mud. It's been like in battles. This is a really great accessory, even though it's a very simple helmet. I'll just put that on top. It is a very loose helmet. I'm thinking what we're going to have to do is the trick that we normally do with other G.I. Joes is when we have two of the goggles. This one will sit backwards on his forehead as like a headband to give somewhat of a spacer for the helmet to rest and sit and really kind of get a grip on his helmet. That way it won't be too obtrusive, but we will get, yeah, that's a much nicer fit. If we set that down there, yeah, he looks much better that way. You can see it's designed so that the other set of goggles, when not in use, is on his head. Here he's got his main rifle here. There doesn't seem to be any backpack or things that go with it, so this is just going to have to be something we store aside. He does have a sidearm that goes in his holster. Fits nicely there. He has his billy club. And there's this interesting muzzle, and this doesn't go on the dog. This, in fact, goes on Mutt here. So let's take off his head, and let's see how well this kind of fits. Is this how it goes? Yeah, I think so. There we go. Okay, he looks rather menacing there. Even though he doesn't have his scowl, you can kind of get a sense with that muzzle on him that he's an angry guy. And then we have all of these different hands. So let's just try to go through it. We have 3 for the left, 3 for the right. Let's just try a few. Yeah, I mean, these fit on just like normal hands. Here he's got a finger. You know, you can either be pointing at a cobra, telling him they're next, or he could point to a spot and have Junkyard go to that spot. Maybe that's what that's for. Let's see, there's a fist. It's probably for punching cobras in the face. Here's just his normal trigger hand. This is going to be used with his weapons. I believe this is like stay, like the stay command. Here we have some kind of command. I'm not quite sure what that is. And I believe this one is a sit command. You hold it up like that, and then the dog is supposed to sit. So that is kind of the different hand functions there. Those are cool. I like how we figured out the muzzle on him. Let's see if we can get this stretched over his helmet. And that is not working too well. I think I can force it. Yeah, so it's going to take a little bit of extra stretchiness. You're just going to have to trust the process on this one, I think, and get it around that kind of critical point where it stays. That looks really good. However, I think I'm going to leave it off. I just like the look of that helmet. I really want to bring out the details in that. Let's take a look at Junkyard now. This is the standout figure, for sure. All the dogs so far, Timber, all the versions of Timber have been great based on the same body. I think this is similar. We have all the joints, we have the swivels, we have the kickouts. Let's put on the different head because I really like this. Oh, and yes, we have the collar that is different. You can take it off or on. It's up to you, but I like this really silly grin on him. He's not as serious there. He looks more of like a friend companion when he's off the clock. I've noticed this is easier to put the different head swaps on than Timber. But yeah, I really love that tongue to the side. And let's look a little closer here. You can see the different paint applications on Junkyard. There's all this fading technique. On the bottom, he has his dog paws. They're not painted. I think the Timber ones were painted. These aren't. Small, minor thing considering that they're going to be on the ground. All right, what do you say? We get some cool shots with these two. I think they are great companions. A lot of customization. No, he can't store everything on him, but that's okay. Doesn't need to, because I think that would be too heavy of a character. I think having him be more nimble alongside Junkyard here is a great choice. All right. So there we have Mutt and Junkyard. A really interesting two-pack here. I think, of course, Junkyard is the stronger figure here, as Mutt is just more or less a regular G.I. Joe, and I'm really not crazy about that arm hair stuff. I know it's a weird complaint, but it just looks weird. I don't know. I'm all for welcoming more animals to the G.I. Joe Classified series, because along with vehicles, animal helpers or animal companions are definitely part of the DNA of the entire G.I. Joe squad, and Cobra too for that matter. And I know it might seem simple and maybe a little bit silly, but the way that the helmet is weathered, and it feels like it's actually dirty and grimy, is a really cool feature. It goes with the scratches on his face and the fact that this leather guard around his forearm has a bunch of nicks and scratches like Junkyard here has been doing quite a bit of training. The other really cool thing are the nods to dog training. The fact that he comes with like the stay command, with the sit command. There are some other probably things that I don't know because I am not a master dog trainer by any stretch of the imagination, but the fact that they were thoughtful and included these things as an optional piece for this two-pack was a really, really thoughtfully well done inclusion. While Mutt is more of a plain G.I. Joe, Junkyard steals the show just like most of the other animals, at least in my opinion, in the G.I. Joe Classified series. While not my favorite commando in the G.I. Joe team, the 2-pack here really sets the tone for great animal companions. That's it for Mutt and Junkyard. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section. Specifically, I want to know if you want to see more animal companions in the G.I. Joe Classified series. I know we're getting a few more of them with Naugahyde, but beyond that, there are still more to pull from. And as always, if you like Nerf, if you like action figures, if you like just collecting toys in general, be sure to follow the channel. It helps it grow. And if you're in a position to help the channel and sponsor it, consider becoming a channel member. Starting at 99 cents a month, you can help put out more videos and get some behind the scenes access. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.